Hey, history nerds, welcome back to WTF History, where we dig into the wildest, darkest, and downright strangest stories from the past. Today, we're diving headfirst into the scorching sands of ancient Egypt to unravel the twisted tale of Tutankhamun, the boy king whose golden mask has haunted our imaginations for a century. But forget the Hollywood curse nonsense. This isn't about mummies waking up to wreak havoc. This is about a royal family so obsessed with keeping their blood pure, they ended up poisoning their entire dynasty. Grab your scarab amulets, because we're about to uncover a story that's equal parts tragic, bizarre, and absolutely mind-blowing. It's 1922, and the Valley of the Kings is a sun-baked wasteland. A rocky graveyard where treasure hunters have been sniffing around for centuries. Howard Carter, this dogged archaeologist with a lantern and a dream, is on the verge of giving up. His team's exhausted, the funding's drying up, and the desert's laughing in their faces. But Carter's got this gut feeling, this stubborn spark that says there's something out there, waiting. Then, one day, a worker's pickaxe hits something solid. A sealed door, carved with hieroglyphs, untouched for over 3,000 years. The air goes still. Carter's heart's probably racing like a chariot. He chisels through, and a gust of ancient air escapes, carrying secrets older than the pyramids. He peers inside, his lantern flickering, and what does he see? Gold. Piles of it. Glinting like the sun itself got buried down there. At the center, a golden mask, serene and perfect, staring back like it knows something the world forgot. This is Tutankhamun's tomb, and it's about to set the world on fire. The moment that door cracks open, the stories start flying. A curse, they whisper. A supernatural trap set by a vengeful pharaoh to smite anyone who dares disturb his rest. Lord Carnarvon, the guy footing the bill for Carter's dig, drops dead a year later from an infected mosquito bite. Coincidence? Probably. But the newspapers go wild, spinning tales of death on swift wings and angry spirits. By the 1930s, Hollywood's churning out movies like The Mummy, and Tut's Curse is a global obsession, the kind of story that gives you chills on a hot summer night. But here's the thing. Folks, that's not the real curse. The real one wasn't carved on tomb walls or whispered by ghosts. It was etched in Tutankhamun's bones, in the DNA of a royal family that played a dangerous game with their bloodline. This is the story of inbreeding so extreme it didn't just doom a boy, it brought down an empire. Let's rewind to Egypt's 18th dynasty, around 1341 BCE, when a new kingdom was shining brighter than Ra's sun disk. This was Egypt at its peak. A golden age where pharaohs weren't just kings. They were gods on earth, strutting through Thebes with the kind of swagger that comes from ruling an empire stretching from Nubia to the Middle East. Thebes was alive, its markets buzzing with traders, its temples like Karnak towering over the city, their stone pillars practically shouting, "We're unstoppable." Pharaohs like Amenhotep III, Tut's grandfather, were swimming in wealth, building monuments that made the pyramids look like practice runs. The royal family believed their blood was sacred, a direct line to the divine, and they'd do anything to keep it that way. That's where the trouble starts, because anything meant marrying their own siblings, cousins, even kids, all to lock the throne down tight. This wasn't just a quirky tradition. It was a power play, inspired by the myths of Osiris and Isis, the divine brother and sister who married and birthed Horus, the falcon god. If the gods could keep in the family, why not the pharaohs? So they did, generation after generation, tying their bloodline into knots to keep outsiders away from the crown. It sounded like a plan, but it was a genetic disaster waiting to happen. Every marriage between siblings or cousins was like rolling the dice with DNA, stacking up harmful recessive genes that were biding their time. By the time Tutankhamun's parents, Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh, and his full sister, the younger lady, got together, the dice were loaded, and the odds were grim. Akhenaten was a rebel, even by pharaoh standards. This guy decided to ditch Egypt's entire pantheon of gods for one deity, the sun disk Aten, and built a whole new city, Amarna, to worship him. It was a bold move, but while he was shaking up the religious scene, he was following the same old family playbook. Marry your sister, keep the bloodline divine. The younger lady, his full sister, was his queen, and together they brought Tutankhamun into the world. But this wasn't a joyful birth. This was the beginning of a tragedy, a kid born into a bloodline so tangled it was already choking itself. When Tut arrived, the midwives probably felt their hearts sink. His cry was weak, more like a gurgle than a wail. His limbs were limp, his skin pale as faded papyrus, his head too big for his fragile neck. The court, though, they didn't flinch. They wrapped him in the finest linen, slapped a royal title on him, and called him divine, even as his feeble cries echoed like a warning in the incense-heavy air. We're stepping into the heart of Amarna now, around 1341 BCE, where Tutankhamun's story takes shape in a city built to worship a single god. The younger lady, Akhenaten's sister and queen, is in labor, and the palace is tense. The air thick with incense and whispered prayers. Midwives hover, priests chant, and the whole court's waiting for the heir who will carry the dynasty forward. But when the baby arrives, there's no triumphant roar. Tutankhamun's cry is frail, a gurgling whimper that makes the midwives exchange nervous glances. His limbs hang limp, his skin's pale like the Nile's muddy banks, and his head's too large, wobbling on a neck that looks like it might snap. His left foot's twisted inward, clubfoot, the doctors would later call it, making every future step a struggle. His right foot's missing bones, a condition called oligodactyly. His spine's got a slight curve, kyphoscoliosis, and his palate's cleft, turning even nursing into a battle. The court wraps him in linen, calls him the living image of the gods, but behind the pomp, everyone knows something's wrong. This kid isn't just sick, he's a genetic warning sign. The product of a family tree that's more like a tangled vine. His parents, Akhenaten and the younger lady, are full siblings, sharing way too much DNA. Their parents, Amenhotep III and Queen Tai, were likely cousins. Go back further, and you've got great-grandparents Yuya and Thuya caught in the same web. DNA studies from 2010, confirmed again in 2025, show Tut's inbreeding coefficient was higher than modern siblings, meaning harmful recessive genes were coming out to play. Weak immunity, brittle bones, deformities, these were the gifts of a bloodline that thought it was above nature. The court's in denial, though, dressing Tut in gold, parading him as the heir to the two lands, while physicians scramble with herbs and spells, praying for a miracle that's not coming. Growing up in Amarna's gilded cage, Tut's life is a study in fragility. He's not chasing lizards in the palace gardens or playing with other kids. He's propped up by attendants, his every move watched by a court desperate to keep the myth of divinity alive. As a toddler, he's late to walk, painfully late. When he finally does, it's with a limp, leaning on canes that'll later fill his tomb. Over 130 of them, their handles worn from use. His clubfoot drags. His spine aches and malaria, multiple strains of Plasmodium falciparum, confirmed by modern science, hits him like a sandstorm, leaving him feverish and weak. His bones are soft from Kohler's disease, a necrosis that makes every step feel like walking on knives. His overbite's getting worse, his spine's curving more, and there's a chance he's having seizures, though we can't be sure. The court calls his silences profound, his stumbles divine, but it's all a lie to hide the truth. Tut's a genetic dead end, a boy born to a dynasty that's rotting from the inside. By the time he's 9, the world shifts. Akhenaten dies around 1336 BCE, leaving a kingdom in chaos. His Aten experiments falling apart. Priests are furious, the old gods are back, and Egypt's allies are getting restless. Tut, barely able to walk, is crowned pharaoh, renamed Tutankhamun, living image of Ammonius, to appease the traditionalists. He's a kid on a throne he can't climb. The double crown too heavy for his fragile neck. Regents like maybe his grandfather, and Horemheb, the iron-fisted general, run the show, signing decrees in his name, using him like a puppet. Public appearances are a farce. Tut's carried in a golden litter, his head lolling, while the crowd's told, "Behold your God-king." It's a performance, and the court's got it down to an art. Because admitting Tut's broken would mean admitting the whole dynasty's a lie. We're in the thick of it now, around 1332 BCE, and Tutankhamun's sitting on the throne of the two lands. A 9-year-old kid drowning in the weight of his own crown. The double crown, that iconic symbol of Upper and Lower Egypt, looks absurd on his frail frame, like putting a war helmet on a sparrow. The court's in full theater mode, staging a grand illusion to convince everyone, nobles, priests, even the farmers along the Nile, that this boy is the divine savior Egypt needs. But behind a lotus-adorned litters and jeweled collars, the truth is brutal. Tut's not ruling. He's barely surviving, a pawn for men like and Horemheb, who are pulling the strings while the empire starts to crack. Imagine being Tut. You're 10, maybe 11, and your life's a parade of pain. Your clubfoot makes walking agony. So you lean on canes, over 130 found in your tomb, their handles worn smooth from use. Your spine's curving with kyphoscoliosis. Your bones are soft from Kohler's disease. And malaria's tearing through you, multiple strains confirmed by DNA studies in 2010 and 2025. Fevers leave you shivering, your skin waxy and yellow, your eyes twitching like they're searching for a way out. You're supposed to be a god, but you feel like a shadow, haunting your own palace. The court chants your titles, Lord of the Two Lands, Son of Ra, but you're just trying to survive the day without collapsing. The cunning vizier and maybe Tut's grandfather, and Horemheb, the general with a will of iron, are the real power. They sign decrees, negotiate with foreign powers, and keep the empire's wheels turning while Tut's carried around like a broken doll. Public appearances are torture. The people expect a warrior pharaoh, someone who can hunt lions or drive a chariot like the legends of old. Instead, they get a boy who can barely walk, his gaze vacant, his hands trembling around a scepter he can't lift. The court spins it like masters. He's communing with Ra, they say when he stares into space. He's in divine contemplation, they claim when he stumbles. It's a lie so polished it shines brighter than the gold in his treasury. The court's desperate to keep Tut alive. Physicians brew potions from Nile herbs. Priests burn myrrh to chase away evil spirits, and attendants swap out sweat-soaked linens faster than you can blink. Malaria's the big killer, with Plasmodium falciparum wrecking his immune system, a ruin thanks to generations of inbreeding. His parents, full siblings, stacked the genetic deck against him. Their parents, likely cousins, didn't help. Harmful recessive genes are popping up like vipers, causing bone necrosis, a curved spine, an overbite, and maybe seizures. The court calls it divine mystery, but it's biology and it's brutal. They're not just lying to the people. They're lying to themselves because the truth would unravel the myth of divine kingship. The marriage to Enkhuisenemen, Tut's half-sister, is the court's big hope. They need an heir to keep the 18th dynasty alive. Enkhuisenemen's a tragic figure, her beauty carved into statues, but her life tied to a dying boy. The wedding, around 1332 BCE, is all pomp and ritual, meant to echo Osiris and Isis. But it's a hollow dream. Tut's sterile, his body too broken to produce life. Their 2 daughters, mummified in Tut's tomb, are stillborn, one at 5 months, the other at 9. CT scans show spina bifida, scoliosis, twisted limbs, the same genetic curse as their father. The court tries everything: scarab amulets, prayers to Hathor. Lotus blooms, but nature's not budging. The bloodline's a dead end. The court's desperation turns to superstition. Tut's ailments aren't illness. They're divine punishment. They whisper. Maybe Aten's angry, or the old gods are striking back for Akhenaten's heresy. Priests chant louder, pouring Nile water over Tut's trembling frame, burning incense to banish demons. Some mutter about a sorcerer's hex or Hittite curses. Nobody names the real culprit. A bloodline so knotted it's choking itself. Tut, frail and feverish, clings to amulets, his mind clouded by fever. His attendants hide mirrors. Terrified hills see the truth. A pharaoh crumbling, a dynasty dying. We're at the endgame now, and it's heavy. It's 1323 BCE, and Tutankhamun, barely 19, is a fading ember in Thebes' glittering halls. His skin's waxy and yellow, like a candle burned too long. His bones ache with Kohler's disease. His club foot drags like a chain. And malaria, multiple strains confirmed by DNA in 2010 and 2025, surges through his veins, igniting fevers that leave him trembling. His eyes, clouded by fever or maybe seizures, search for an escape from his prison of flesh. The court's still chanting, still pretending, but the illusion's crumbling. Tut's not a pharaoh. He's a sacred corpse, breathing by grim inertia. The court's in panic mode. Priests burn myrrh around the clock. Physicians throw every herb and spell at him. But it's like trying to hold back the Nile with a reed. Tut's immune system, wrecked by inbreeding, is crumbling like Amarna's temples. His parents' sibling marriage, their parents' cousin union. And centuries of tangled blood have stacked harmful genes into a genetic nightmare. His overbite's worse, his spine's curving more, and every step is agony. The court calls him divine. But he's a boy trapped in a role he can't play, propped up in linen robes, the double crown wobbling on his frail head. Public appearances are a nightmare. Tut's carried in his golden litter, hands shaking around a scepter he can't lift. The people want a god king, but they get a boy one fever away from the afterlife. Artisans carve him as a warrior, but his 130-plus canes tell the truth. A king who could barely walk. Foreign envoys whisper, one Hittite scribe writing, "The king is a shadow," and the court lies to hide it. Nubia is slipping. Mitanni's alliances are fraying, and rebellion's in the air. Tut's supposed to be the center, but he's a ghost. Enkhuisenemen's despair is crushing. Her stillborn daughters are a reminder of the curse. And her secret plea to the Hittite king for a prince, Zenanza, ends in his murder on the road, sparking chaos. She vanishes, maybe forced into marriage with Ai, her fate lost to the Nile's mists. The end comes fast. Around 1323 BCE, Tut's body gives out. A broken leg, likely from a fall during a hunt, festers into gangrene, the infection seeping into his blood. Combined with malaria's assaults, it triggers a fatal immune shock. His heart stops, his lungs give out, and there's no grand speech, just a boy's rasping breath fading under linen sheets, surrounded by useless amulets. The court's silent, their prayers hollow. The tomb, KV-62, is prepared in haste, its walls unfinished, stuffed with 5,000 treasures, golden masks, worn canes. A hurried burial to hide the truth. The aftermath is chaos. I grabs the throne, but his reign's brief, 1323 to 1319 BCE. Horemheb follows, erasing Amarna's memory, smashing Akhenaten's statues, restoring the old gods, paving the way for Ramesses I and the 19th dynasty. Egypt's empire frays. Nubia's gone, Mitanni's alliances collapse, and rebellion grows. Tut's death isn't just a tragedy. It's the end of the 18th dynasty, a bloodline that devoured itself through arrogance. In 1922, Howard Carter's lantern lights up KV-62, and the world goes wild. The golden mask sparks Egyptology, fills museums, and fuels films like The Mummy. The cursed stories, Carnarvon's death, death on swift wings, are just stories, maybe ergotism from tomb fungi, but no supernatural wrath. The real curse was in Tut's bones. Gangrene, malaria, inbreeding's toll. His stillborn daughters, twisted by spina bifida, weren't divine trials. They were genetic failures. Tut wasn't a monster or a tyrant. He was a victim, a kid trapped in a system that prized blood over merit. His 9-year reign was no triumph, but a caution carved in bone. The 18th dynasty fell not to enemies, but to its own hubris, believing divine blood could defy biology. When kings think they're gods, when bloodlines become chains, empires pay the price. Tut's legacy is a warning. Power isn't just a throne, it's a responsibility. The sands of Egypt reclaimed his name, but the truth shines through, stark as the desert sun. No god king is above nature's laws. So history nerds, what's your take? Drop a comment. Did Tut's story blow your mind? Or do you want more tales of empires crumbling under their own weight? Hit that subscribe button, and let's keep digging into the wild, weird, and totally WTF moments of history.